Nobody is talking about this. With the Cavs season finally underway, this player must step up if he wants to secure a long-term career with the wine and gold. What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for joining me today for another episode of Cavs Digest. I'm your host for this episode, Darayus Sethna. Thanks so much for joining me. And like I said, I've been saying this throughout my time here, especially these last few weeks. Cavs season now underway, so this is definitely more important for you to do now. Like this video and subscribe to the Cavs Digest YouTube channel. Like I said, Cavs season tipped off last night, so we're gonna get news and content flowing here on the channel a lot more now. So super excited to keep you up to speed on that. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest in Cavs news and content, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the Cavs Digest channel. Matt also doing a fantastic job getting content out there, so want to make sure that you see his stuff as well because he's been doing a great job. So I wanted to get into today's video specifically talking about Dean Wade, and this is a player who's been on the Cavs for quite a few years now, and I think it's really important to give a video, do a video about him because he's in an interesting situation with this current Cavs team because he's been on the team, for quite a few years now. You could maybe say he's one of the elder statesmen on the squad, but at the same time, he still has a lot to prove. So it's a very interesting dynamic here for Dean Wade. Going into Wade a little bit more specifically, there are a lot of positives around him, right? When you think about Dean Wade, he is the quintessential 3-and-D type player that you need in today's NBA. Someone who can shoot the basketball, but is going to play defense on the opposing team's best player and do a serviceable job, right? He's obviously not a sixth man, a Jamal Crawford, a Lou Williams, sixth man, not that type of player. He's more of just a spot shooter and is going to give you the hustle points, the defense. That is what Dean Wade's impact is on this team, bringing that energy, bringing that extra shooter. And it's going to be even more important with Darius Garland and Max Strus. And now DeAndre Hunter, it doesn't look like it's too serious, but we don't know when he's going to exactly be back here yet. So this is big for Dean Wade. And last night, Wade showed up. The Cavs opening game against the Knicks at Madison Square Garden last night. And, real quick, Wade in 28 minutes had 10 points. It was 3 of 3 from three-point range. So solid start for Dean Wade despite the loss for this Cavs team. Now, last year was an interesting dynamic, and that's why I bring this picture up, because Wade struggled against Indiana last year. Quite frankly, everybody struggled, but specifically going into Dean Wade, he only shot 20% from three, and that was after shooting 37% in the regular season, dropping in this season against Indiana to only that postseason against Indiana 20%. So that's a pretty big drop-off. And then here's the other thing. In that 5-game loss to Indiana, only 13 total shot attempts for Dean Wade, which is a little, when I was doing the research on that, I was a little taken back by that because Darius Garland was not healthy. Mitchell was carrying a big load. And, I really thought it just seemed to me 13 shot attempts in a 5-game series for someone like Dean Wade who gets a decent amount of playing time, especially under Kenny Atkinson. Yeah, definitely took me back a little bit. But nonetheless, big struggle, kind of big flop by Dean Wade in the playoffs last year. And that was really everybody on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So going into some of the more stats, little numbers heavy now, this part of the video. Just real quick, when you see those stats talking about Dean Wade, I just want to tell you that, these numbers to me looks like that he's shown to be a serviceable wing in this league, right? I'm not saying he's going to go off for, 30 points a night or even coming off the bench going off for 15, 20 points a night. That's not the type of bench player that he is, right? Like I said, he's someone who's just going to come in, shoot 41% from the field, 36% from three-point range, at least in the regular season, see if that can carry over to playoff time. But at the end of the day, when I look at these numbers, the word that comes to mind for me is serviceable, especially when you think about the specific role that Dean Wade has to play with this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Doesn't need to be the superstar, but needs to come in off the bench and bring that impact. And there are multiple moments throughout his career where he has started for the Cavs. So definitely a very valuable player in terms of his flexibility and able to start, come off the bench, that sort of thing. But the reason I wanted to do this video, the crux of this video, if you will, goes into this quote by Izzy Tsai, who wrote this article. It's on the Cavs blog website, Fear the Sword. Cleveland is much deeper in the front court, and especially if younger guys like Jalen Tyson and Naquan Tomlin emerge, and Jalen Tyson played heavy minutes in that game against New York last night. So with those two emerging, and obviously other players, Wade could find himself as the odd man out. He's only making a little over $6.5 million on an expiring contract this season, so the Cavs could easily trade him if he doesn't turn it around. And that's why I say the dynamic around Dean Wade is so interesting, because he's been here since 2020, 2021, so it's been a few years now. And the fact that, he's kind of still, in a sense, fighting for a roster spot, a long-term roster spot, and a contract extension is interesting. And, obviously not saying, he would not deserve it or something like that. Don't want to take it to that level. But I do think that this season is a make-or-break season for Dean Wade. He must take advantage of this opportunity, especially with the Cavs' top perimeter shooter in Max Strus going to miss some significant time with the injury and the setback he suffered pretty late in the offseason, suffered it back in August. So it's not going to be back probably till around Christmas time, start of the new year. This is a great opportunity for Dean Wade to really show us why he deserves to be in a wine and gold uniform for the long haul. And overall for the Cavs, they're going to need to find creative ways without Strus and Garland to start the season. And it's kind of looking into last night specifically, and I mentioned Dean Wade had a good start to the season, 28 minutes, 10 points, the 3 3-pointers for Dean Wade. But overall, without Darius Garland, without Max Strus, you saw there were spurts against the Knicks last night where Donovan Mitchell could just take over, right? Beginning of the third quarter was, just going off on everybody. But then fourth quarter came and he was tired. He was, had a pretty heavy load on him. Obviously, you can't use that as an excuse for your top superstar. But at the end of the day, it can't just be the Donovan Mitchell show. That's what the Cavs reverted to in past years, especially in the playoffs, and it did not work. So you can't make it the Donovan Mitchell show. Evan Mobley had spurts where he looked, played fairly well. I didn't get to watch all of this game because I was in grad school taking night classes, so I only got to see really the second half of the third quarter and the entire fourth quarter. But I just think the Cavs are going to have to find creative ways to score. Donovan Mitchell can obviously have his moments and his heat checks and all that great stuff, but how can you get Evan Mobley involved? How can you get Jarrett Allen more involved? These younger guys, we saw Jalen Tyson and Tyrese Proctor played some heavy minutes at the Garden last night, and yes, part of that's due to the injuries, but they're obviously showing Kenny Atkinson something that he likes. So ultimately, I think that it's only game one of an 82-game season, right? But I think there's still certainly some kinks to work out. But with this being the case, however, with this being the reality, this is a phenomenal opportunity for Dean Wade to show us what he's got and take advantage. He must continue to perform. Numbers like that, 10 points, 3 3-pointers. If you can, increase those numbers just a little bit, that could definitely go a long way in showing why Dean Wade belongs in a Cleveland Cavaliers uniform for the long haul. But that's all I've got today for my latest video here on Cavs Digest. Super excited that Cavs season is finally back. The Cavs will be in Brooklyn tomorrow night taking on the Nets, so they'll finish up this quick 2-game New York road trip, and then they'll be back here on Sunday for the home opener against Milwaukee. And Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo dropping 37 points in the win yesterday for the Bucks over the Wizards, so definitely should be a good showdown at Rocket Arena. But again, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. Quick reminder, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the Cavs Digest YouTube channel. I'll see you soon for another episode of Cavs Digest. Thanks so much, everybody, and take care.